Welcome back to the Nathan Joseph podcast. Today I am joined by, I would say, one of my best friends from Australia. Um, she is Courtney Woolbank, or her actual name's Woolbank, but what a human being she is. Honestly, over the last three years now, I have had the pleasure of watching her grow. She started a mindset business. When was it? 2 years ago or 3 years ago?
Well, a year and a half.
All right. Almost 2 years ago. And honestly, the energy that she brings is next level. There's a lot of fakers online and you can see through their bullshit. But honestly, the vibe that she has when she talks about her clients, when she's getting the results with them, is second to none. And she's just living as the highest version of herself. It couldn't honestly happen to a better human being because she is just amazing. I will stop with the niceties there because it will make me a little bit sick. But cool, it is honestly lovely not only to have you on the podcast, but obviously we'll have a catch up through this. How are you?
I'm good. That was beautiful. Thank you. Bit
Yeah,
cringe because we're normally like at each other's throats and being
yeah,
nasty
I
to each other,
know.
but I like it that way. It's
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 more of a like it's
pants, isn't
like
it?
a brotherly sisterly, like,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? Which I
Yeah.
do enjoy. I wouldn't have it
Yeah,
any
me
other
too.
way. Get yourself comfy there.
But no.
Thank you for getting up at 5 a.m. in Australia. Um, and today I really want to delve into what
Mm.
makes you tick. That is
Okay.
why you're on the podcast. And
Mm.
obviously, I think the best place to start there is a year and a half ago, you started the Grow and Glow Co. Um, Talk to me about why that happened, what got you interested in becoming a mindset coach.
Okay. So I originally I didn't
Hmm.
even know what it was. Like I
Hmm.
didn't follow any coaches online. I just didn't have a clue about what it was. I'd heard of Tony Robbins and stuff like, like the big people, but never like I just didn't know what it was.
Mm.
And then I've always I don't like to say suffered from anxiety now, but I'd always feared anxiety and I'd always experienced anxiety since I was like I'd say 16 and over. And it had just come about randomly. And then it got to the point when about 2 years ago, I'm trying to think now when it was 2021, I think, when things got really bad and things just escalated. I don't know whether it was because everything that happened with COVID and like obviously the world was changing and we was in and out of lockdown here in Sydney because we never really got into lockdown straight away, did we? It was all like up in the air.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it was that, but it just got really, really bad. And I started like really hating myself, like hating the way I looked. Um, I used to be really paranoid that like everyone didn't like me for some reason, like convinced that people were just pretending. It was so strange, but it wasn't strange. It was just my mind tricking me.
Yeah.
I used to be paranoid that like people didn't really like me, people didn't want to be around me. If someone paid me a compliment, I was convinced he was lying or just trying to make me feel better. But yeah, because my mind was like switching it to mean that every time I looked in the mirror, I was just like bursting into tears. Then I started experiencing like severe anxiety attacks. So I was getting anxiety about the fear of getting anxiety. So, like, knowing that I had to get up and get ready in the mirror for work was giving me anxiety because I knew that I was going to get anxiety about leaving the house.
Hmm.
So it was like this weird domino effect, like spiral. It was awful. Um, so every morning I'd be like hyperventilating, couldn't breathe, crying. And then at one point I was hiding in the bathroom crying because I felt so much shame about the way I was feeling. I didn't want like Aaron to know. Aaron was in bed and I started crying in the mirror. And I remember like running into the bathroom and just crying there. And then I was in the gym one day, right? I couldn't concentrate at work. I was like running into the bathroom at work most days, just couldn't breathe in the bathroom at work. And then on, I can't remember when it would have been. It was early 2021, I think. Yeah, early 2021. I was in the gym, right? And this is so random, but do you know Charlotte Crosby?
Yes.
As in off Geordie Shore.
Geordie Shore, yeah.
Yeah, it's really random. Like I'm not like a top number one fan or anything, but I was following
You are. You
following
got
her on
posters in your
Instagram.
room.
Oh God. I was following her on Instagram and I seen her post something about Channel 5 had released this program about celebrities and it was called something like What Happened to Your Face? And it was basically a program about them slagging celebrities off, like the way they looked. And it triggered me. It could have been anyone. It didn't have to be Charlotte Crosby, but I seen that post. She posted this big post about how it's like affected her mental health and how these things need to stop. And I was in the gym midway through my session and I just had this huge feeling come over me. Like to this day, I can't really explain it other than I now know it was like a kick from the universe. Like go like because that was the starting point of everything of where I am now.
Yeah.
And oh, it was so weird. It just like this feeling come over my whole body. I ran home mid like
Gym
session.
session, yeah.
Yeah, in tears, got here, sat on the balcony, and I was just crying and crying and crying. And Aaron was like, "What is up? Like, what's wrong?" Because he didn't know.
Yeah, of
Like,
course.
he
Because you
kind
was
of he
hiding it
knew.
from him.
Yeah, he knew. Obviously, he would have sensed that something wasn't right, but he didn't. I didn't think he knew the extent of it. No one did.
Well, I wouldn't have had a clue that this was going on, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I think a couple of weeks earlier before the gym thing, I had the girls round here because we just moved in this flat and they was talking about like I think they was talking about sex or something like their sex lives with their partners and I burst into tears because it was affecting everything, even that.
Yeah.
And I told them that night and that even that was a little bit of a
What, that you was
release.
feeling that way or your sex life
Mm,
went where you wanted it to
both.
be? Right, okay, yeah.
Both. But I don't think I told them to the full extent. I just kind of told them how I was
Yeah, of
feeling.
course, yeah. I know what you're
And
saying,
they
yeah.
were shocked. They were shocked. And then, so the gym thing happened. I come home, cry my eyes out. And then I just said in that moment, I remember being on the balcony. I remember it clear as day. I said, I've got to do something. I was like, I've got to sort myself out and then I've got to do something like to help other people. Because I
Yeah.
was like, this is fucking bullshit. I was like, this cannot be the only way to live. Like it can't be.
Yeah.
And then from then, oh, that's it. On the balcony, I got my pen and paper out and I was just, I've never written something so like pure and raw ever. I was just writing and write because I like to write. I already had a
Yeah.
blog. It wasn't nothing. I didn't put my effort into it. It was just there and I'd write every now and then. And I just wrote like from, I don't even think I was like
But what were
present with
you
it.
yeah, that's I think is when you don't even think, and it's like your brain's just
Yeah.
connected to the pen, yeah.
Yeah.
And then you're just like, how
Mm.
did this even get on this paper? But
Yeah,
what sort
that's
of things were
exactly what
you
it was like.
writing then? Was it like, oh, I'm going to change the world, or was it like,
No, oh my God, absolutely no.
or was it just like
If you
raw
go back,
emotion?
yeah, if you go back and read it, it's so much pain. It's very much like, why is the world so? Because I remember the opening line is something like, as I sit here and look at the balcony off my balcony at my beautiful view, I can't understand why the world can be so fucking horrible. And I was very much like, the world is horrible in this piece of writing and something has to change.
And now, because that to me, the way my mindset is, yes, the world's not
Mm.
horrible. It's something wrong with you. Yeah.
No,
Not in a, that's not me saying anxiety is a bad thing, but I believe if you're blaming someone else, you're giving someone else the power that you have in you. Yeah.
100%.
So
Mm.
now do you look back at that and you're like, oh shit, like, all right, it spurred you on in the right direction, but obviously again, if you're blaming someone, if you're making excuses, then you can never correct that yourself.
100%. I was blaming the world. I was blaming society. I was blaming how other people acted for my anxiety in that
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
And but even though I was saying something needs to change, I didn't realize while I was writing that it was me.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was the world. So I put that out there, and I remember you and Ryan popping up to me saying, you need to do something with your like you need to do something with your
Yeah.
writing. And I was like, oh God, I don't know about that. And then I just went on this incredible like inner journey, like exploration, healing, whatever you want to call it. I did some massively huge, scary things within the space of like 6 months.
Which were?
Like, and it's not going to sound big
No,
to
it never
anyone else,
does.
but
It never does. Yeah,
but
for
for me,
100%.
yeah.
Like I
So,
think that's important, an important point, because some of the biggest steps that I've ever taken are pathetic in other people's eyes.
mm,
Yeah. So what were
yeah,
yours?
100. So, oh God, one of them was the fact that I'd wore glasses for something like 6, 7 years. When I didn't need them, I was just convinced that they hid my face. Right? Yeah. So I snapped the glasses.
I
I
didn't even
snapped.
know that. I didn't even know
Yeah.
that. I,
Yeah. Well, have you not noticed how I never wear glasses anymore?
I
I
just
never
thought, oh, she
used
must
to.
have just got contacts. I didn't
No.
know. Why am I ever going to assume like, oh yeah, she don't wear glasses no more because she don't need them? Like, that's mad. But I didn't know it
Yeah.
was
So
for that reason. But yeah, go on. Yeah, that is a big
yeah,
step.
and then I used to go out like on a night out and try and not wear them, but they used to be in my bag, and I used to get such bad anxiety, I used to have to take them out and put them on midnight out. So I snapped them, and I was like, "Fuck this! I'm not doing it to please everyone else. I'm gonna go out without them." That was
Mm.
one. Another one was I wrote a letter to my dad. This was huge. I wrote a letter originally for me in my mind, because I didn't realize that a lot of these anxieties that we're experiencing wasn't because I looked a certain way. It was because I had all these just deep challenges, deep rooted causes that I'd never ever brought to the
Addressed.
surface, and so yeah, ever.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of it was around that relationship. So I
Hmm.
wrote a letter, and then I remember one day I was like, I wrote it, and I was reading it, and I was like, I'm gonna fucking send it. Now to do that is huge, because I did not, me and my dad weren't really even talking at the time. And he's
Hmm.
not the kind of guy who's like emotional and will look at it and send me this big, long, nice text. But it went as well as it could have gone. Anyway, that, and then just like really focusing on prioritizing myself. And I'd never done that before. I'd always kind of acted in a way that I thought that people wanted me to act. And I was always on edge about that, like being the person that I thought everyone wanted me to be. And
Yeah.
then I just started being like, fuck this, I'm just going to do me. Then Ryan again, I started off in lockdown just with this group on Facebook. I'd kind of was helping women just on this group on Facebook, and we was putting our goals in for the day because we was all losing our minds in lockdown.
Yeah.
Then I started the Instagram page, which was Runaway Reads, which was just a blog at first,
Yeah.
because again, you and Ryan pushed me to do that. Then Ryan, a couple months later, sent me a link for coaching, like this organization that does qualifications. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh God. I was like, oh, I don't know. I was like, should I? Like, am I in a position to? And then I thought, you know what? That doesn't even matter. Like, I'll learn, and I know that I want to do something to help women. And then I was like, and then ever since I decided that and went for it, I've got so many little nudges, like just to say, like, I used to sell internet. This is a mad, like, I remember when this happened. I used to sell internet to rural Australia, right?
I think that's meant to be the internet for Southerners or anyone with good English.
What did I say?
I used to sell internet.
I used to sell the internet then to rural Australia. And twice I got customers on the phone, and like when they give me their email, it was like this. It was like obvious that they were coaches, life coaches, and I was like, "Oh, what do you do for a living?" And twice in the space of a week, I'd had these huge conversations just as I decided that I was going to do this
Yeah.
about where they started, where they are now, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is a sign. I need to go for it." And yeah, then the Grow and Glow code kind of just popped into my head one day whilst I was at work, and then I went with that, and now I'm here.
Because what I think is mad is like there's three things that you said then. The first thing that I want to touch on is you said you don't like to say that you suffer with anxiety
Mm,
or suffered with anxiety. Expand
yeah,
on that for me.
because right, I see now when I look back that I had an anxiety disorder, but I never went to the doctors. And I think the reason why I didn't go to the doctors was because when I've suffered with anxiety before in the UK, all they do is shove you shiny pill.
Mm-hmm.
And I refused it then,
Thinking
and I
about
would have
that, yeah,
refused it now.
yeah,
Yeah. I don't think there's anything wrong with medication. I was just very young the first time they offered it me. So I knew that that wasn't the way. And I didn't really do anything about it. Well, I ended up where it was.
yeah.
Um, and it got to that point of the anxiety disorder because I didn't have the tools to deal with anxiety as an emotion, as a normal emotion when I was going through it. So it escalated. And that's what happens. That's where anxiety disorders come from. Do you know what I mean? The
Yeah,
fact that
yeah.
you don't have the tools originally,
To
so it gets
diffuse
worse and
it.
worse and worse. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the reason why I don't say suffered is because I now see that anxiety is nothing to fear. I think people suffer from the fear of anxiety because they don't know what to do with it. They don't know how to move through it, right?
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's what
Yeah, I
I
do.
that's what
I
I
get that.
believe.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So I believe that if we use that word suffered, it's like this thing that we should stay away from and that we shouldn't experience, and that it's something to fear. Whereas I don't think people suffer from anxiety. And that's a bold statement to make, but it's one that I stick with. I think people suffer from the fear of anxiety.
I think that I think there's two types of people.
Mm,
I genuinely believe some people suffer with anxiety
mm-hmm.
because similarly to you, I believe that they sit in it. Yeah. But when you
Yeah.
say to someone, oh, you're suffering with something, again, that comes to like an excuse, or
Yeah.
it's basically okay if you feel shit, which obviously, yes, it is, but
Mm,
also something that I've learned through my mental health journey is like, all right, you can feel shit, but you've got a choice to sit in that shit situation or fucking get yourself out of it. And if you suffer, that means that you're more than happy to just sit in the shit that you're in. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
Whereas if you have anxiety, you're going to work your way out of it. And I think that a lot of people are scared to do the work, which is why
Oh,
they suffer.
100%. And I think it's this like suffer to me is very like victim mindset. And
Exactly. That's, yeah.
I was just very done with that. So
Yeah.
now when I've been on such a huge journey with anxiety, like I always say this in like my work. I've got like a course based around it, like making friends with anxiety, and not just anxiety, anger, jealousy, like all these emotions that we try and like shove in a box and ignore and never try and feel. Like instead of like, oh, I'm suffering from, anger. And I get people have disorders. I get that. And I'm not saying that, I'm not being, what's the word? Like hard. I'm not being harsh. That's the word I'm looking for. Saying
Mm.
like, oh, people don't have disorders, because people do, but it's because they don't have the tools like originally, like in the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
yeah, I
I
just
get
think
that.
it should be about making friends with those kind of emotions, and knowing that they're going to turn up, and then knowing how to move through it.
But it's mad that you say that, yeah, because there's certain emotions like jealousy, for example, yeah.
Mm,
I genuinely can't tell you the last time that I felt jealous. like it would have been years ago. Yeah.
Mm.
But then you're saying, oh, am I putting that in a box? Like, even say when I have a missus or whatever, if someone sticks it on them, yeah, then I'm like, yes. Do you know what I mean? Because in my head, genuine, because in my head, I'm like, oh, mint, like, obviously my missus is well fit. So I'm like,
Yeah.
cool.
No,
Like,
that's not
so I
putting it
don't,
in a box though. Putting it in a box would be feeling it and
oh,
being like, oh,
right,
I
okay.
shouldn't feel
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
That's what I mean by putting it in a
Yeah, yeah,
box. If you
okay,
don't
yeah, yeah,
feel
yeah.
it, you don't feel it. Like
Mint.
that's obviously,
Yeah.
but it's if you feel it and then you've got shame and guilt and you try to hide it and all of those things. That's putting it in a box because you're
Mm.
not getting to the root cause of it. And then it just gets louder and louder and louder.
That brings me on nicely to the second point you made
Mm.
is, well, you sort of say that your coach, it came out of nowhere, yeah? Whereas obviously in
Yeah.
my head, when I got into my coaching, it come out of my battles, so similar to you, but it was very much like, what am I good at? How can I make money out of that? Yeah.
Yeah. So it was
Right. This
intentional
is
kind of thing.
exactly. Whereas you
Mm.
say like you stumbled into it, and I love that you said like, oh, you started like the coaching course. Yeah. But
Yeah.
at that time, I in my head with my coaching, yeah, I was like, well, I know how to build a fucking unbelievable body. Why? Because not well, I'll say unbelievable. At the time, I probably didn't have an unbelievable body, but it weren't half bad. Do you know what I mean? It's probably better than 98% of people on the planet. But regardless of that, yeah. Whereas for you, something that I hate to see is like fat personal trainers
Mm.
saying that they're going to get people in shape, because my mindset straight away is like, well, if you haven't got the discipline to do it for yourself, how can you do
Mm.
it? Or mindset coaches that I know of, or people that have been mindset coaches that don't live it, because I'm like, you're,
They don't practice what they preach.
yeah, you're like, sometimes I'm like, I know you're clean off, yeah,
Yeah.
but you're preaching it. And I remember when I was battling with my mental health, I really had like, I've always just want to help people. So I remember I made like a few videos on my Instagram about just talking about mental health or whatever. But because I was going through it, I didn't feel that I was in a place to then speak about it. But your
Mm-hmm.
journey is, you almost went through it, and then the learning about it then inspired you to do more in it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
definitely.
where's that come from? Because I don't, I have no idea how you do that. Because I remember, obviously, early on, which was quite difficult for me to see as your mate. Like I see you like getting upset on your stories or whatever.
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
then in my head, then like I'm never going to try and burst anyone's bubble, but I'm thinking,
Who's
are
gonna go
you?
to her for help?
No, I weren't thinking that, because I know the person that you are, and I know that I wouldn't say this to anyone, because I think some people, I like a lot of people, but I don't see them as like, oh, you've got it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas in you, like I just knew that this was right for you, but at the same time, I was like, are you taking too much on and then you're gonna just crumble? Yeah. Was
Yeah.
that going through
Yeah.
your head?
I'd say no, that's never gone. That specific kind of thought has never gone through my head. Am I taking too much on? Am I gonna crumble?
Mm,
What it is for me and what I've definitely learned is to go through, because you're always going to go through something as a coach. It's not, I always say, like, don't come to a coach thinking that they have all the answers, because trust me, you're going to be disappointed.
yeah,
Like, because I
no
fucking
doubt.
don't. Like, but what I do is, and like I'm still doing this to this day, is I experience something, use the tools that I've got, and still learn it in about forever. And this is why I get so excited about this stuff, because it never ends. You're
Mm,
always learning about yourself. I experience something, learn from it, process it, and then put it out there.
deliver
Now, it
it.
wasn't
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
always that way. It was not always that way, because I didn't have that. I don't have the level of awareness that I do now. It was
Oh,
from when I had anxiety to like when I first started, my level of awareness had obviously gone up and I'd been through a journey and I knew the tools. So I'd say the main thing was that I only taught what I knew and what I was comfortable with. I would never go out there and pretend that I knew something that I didn't and that I'd not done before myself. And also, I think I've gone through seasons in my business where when I first started, I wasn't as confident as I am now. I can get on the camera and I'm me.
Yeah.
Whereas when I first started, I just wasn't. I was shitting myself.
Yeah. I think that happens with everyone though, but that's going to come from a
Yeah.
confidence perspective anyway. Do you know what I mean? Like I remember when I started, I was like, oh, what are they doing? What does work for them or whatever? Whereas like
Yeah.
maybe some people that I looked up to when I first got into it and I was like, oh, their content bangs. Like now I'm like, that for me is like, that's just not who I am. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And you do go into different levels. And I think you do get found out. Like, say, for example, if I've ever spoken about something which I'm not too familiar with, but I think, oh, that could be useful. It's not even my delivery of it. Yeah. It's like, it must be like the micro details in the way I say things or my body language that people pick up on. And it's like, oh, that's like not disingenuine or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Because like you say with the seasons of your business now, like for me, I was always very much like, oh, you go to the gym, it improves your mental health. So just get in there. But
yeah.
now I'm sort of stepping away from believing that. Yeah. I
Okay.
believe that in the gym, to get the best out of the workout for your mental health, like I'd always be like, don't put yourself through like hard sessions or it's the turning up that counts. Whereas now I'm like, every single day, I'm going to fucking beast myself and I'm going to make sure that I do the hardest workout that I possibly can because that's just going to callous my mind to show me in an hour
what you're
how
capable.
far I can. Yeah, exactly. And like now, I feel like I'm creating a beast for me. Do you know what I mean? Do you get that feeling with what you're doing? Or even if I talk about my battle with mental health, for about 18 months after, even when I was in Australia, every single day I'd wake up and I'd be shitting myself. I'd be like, oh my God, is this the day that I go back there or whatever? In your head now, are you like, because the way I look at it is like, I've got a toolbox now that I am fucking nothing can break me. Do you have that feeling as well in terms of your anxieties? Where's your head with that?
Yeah, I just don't think I'll ever go back to. I think I've had like random thoughts pop in, like, oh, I wonder what it would take. But then that's just my thought. Like your thoughts just always like, you know what I mean? Like
Proper,
try and throw
I'm
one
like,
in there.
oh, mate, I'm like, oh, like, God forbid, but I'm like, oh, if I had a kid and something happened to the kid,
Yeah.
like, what would
Like your
that do?
mind does
Or
that.
if I couldn't have kids, what would that do to
Yeah.
me? Do you know what I mean? Like, and then I'm like,
And you
maybe
might
I'm
like
not. Yeah.
it'll just throw like, but that's not you. That's just literally your mind like fucking regurgitating like shitty thoughts and whatever. But like I know now, like whenever I get a thought like that, it's like, well, no, that like that thought isn't true because I've got everything that I need. Like I know I'll never go back to that place. And I think just like when we was talking about seasons then, I think I went through a season where it was very much come on this journey with me. I'm still healing and I am still healing and I'm still doing the work. But that was why I was always like, I feel like I knew what I was doing, but I didn't know it to the level that I'm at now. Whereas now it's not Dear Diary vibes. It's I can fucking help you vibes because I've got the evidence, I've got the confidence.
Does that
So
evidence go on? Does that
so I'd say back then.
Look out!
Fucking shut the fuck up, let me speak.
You go.
So I'd say back then those thoughts were probably coming up more. Like, what if I go back there? Because I was still like in the very early stages of my journey when I started coaching, but still only teaching what I knew. So back then it was, I probably had more of a fear of me kind of digressing back to how I was. Whereas now, there's just absolutely no chance.
Yeah.
Like,
do you think that is because what I was going to say then is like, obviously you've got this evidence now. Like, I am a massive believer, like, confidence comes from evidence. Yeah.
oh,
Like the
definitely.
evidence that I have in my life that I can do something, like obviously now I must have like almost 1,000 transformations. So it's like, I remember when I was first started to have a few clients and I was like, shit, I've actually done all right with that. And then I'm like, the next one, I was like, maybe I've got lucky again. Do you know what I mean? Whereas for
Yeah.
you now, like, are you in just that mindset? It's like you said then, like, I can fucking help you. Is that come from your own mindset, neglect or not neglecting? That's not the word. Regardless of the coaching that you're doing, or is
Mm.
that, does that come from the amount of lives that you're changing at the moment? Like, I had an absolute or the absolute pleasure of meeting one of our clients. She's worked with both of us, but Rebecca,
Yeah.
in Bali. Like, honestly, we had the most amazing dinner,
Yeah,
like, and
she's
just
like
chat.
client turned friend. I love her so much. We're actually going out for dinner next week. Like, I love
Is
her.
it? Send her my best,
Yeah,
obviously. But do you think
I
it's
will.
like you seeing how much you changed lives like that, that then that's like the, well, if I'm doing that, then I'm clear. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of both. So 100% it's the evidence. Like, and I'd say like evidence is the bulk of it, because it is like you are gonna feel confident the more you do something. Your beliefs about yourself are gonna change the more you receive evidence from it, because your brain literally latches onto that evidence. That's why when
Yeah.
you believe something shit about yourself, like when I thought it was disgusting, my brain was telling me that everyone was talking
Feeling the
shit
same
about me and that
way.
they didn't
Yeah.
mean that what they were saying, when that just was not true. So it
Yeah.
was like taking that evidence. Whereas when you start to shift your beliefs and do things that, are actually going to push you in the right direction, your brain's going to get like take evidence to back that up. So that's what was happening, and
Yeah.
that's what's been pushing me forward in terms of coaching. But I'd say, like, so most of it is evidence, because I remember the very first client I got, I think it was Lucy was my first client. I took 3 on. It was Lucy, Shannon, and someone else. That was obviously like a year and a half ago. And when I look back at like my coaching then and at the level that I was doing it, it was just nothing compared to what I do now. Not nothing. That's bullshit.
Oh,
It was
no,
something,
no,
because it
100%.
created a change.
Yeah, but you're cutting your teeth in it. Like, I know
Yeah.
the coach that I was, and even what I would say is like, my work rate hasn't diminished, but I would say I am aim and fire now. Whereas before I was like,
Mm.
I'm just going to do absolutely anything and just
Yeah.
like hope
Same.
that it helps you. Whereas
Yeah.
now, like, I'm so dialed in. And I think that
Yeah.
that
You
is like
refine
in
it, don't you?
exactly. So I am like, you still work hard, but you just know that you're delivering exactly, not exactly what works. It's not exactly the same for everyone. Do you know what I
Mm.
mean? You need to be specific, but um, it is weird to look back on your
Yeah.
coaching journey and you're like, fuck, I can't believe that I did it that way, or
Yeah.
why was
But
I
it was
doing that
still
for so
helping
long?
people.
Yeah,
Like even that
absolutely.
level of
Like, I was still
coaching was
getting
still
results.
changing
Yeah.
the life. Yeah. So I'd say I've coached around one-on-one, probably about 30 now.
Mm,
Around 30 in the space of a year and a half, which is a lot. Like
100%.
one-on-one for 3 months. And every time hearing, and not even hearing, seeing, literally being a witness to how they were to how they are when they finish from it, 100% like helped my confidence in it and helped my business grow. Like I would not be where I am without the clients, obviously,
Yeah.
like because I wouldn't have a business. And then the other part of it is just my confidence and my mindset, like me doing the work on myself. So not the evidence from the outside of me, but the evidence from, I mean, I suppose it's still evidence, but the work that I've done inside as well. Like I never stop. It's my life.
Yeah.
Like growth is literally everything to
Yeah.
me.
But I think that that is, there's 2 points I want to touch on there, and I want to make sure that I actually cover these 2 points, because I've said this like twice now, and I think I haven't got to the last one. But the first point is that when you're in this victim mindset, yeah, you feel like you've hit the ceiling, the level, yeah,
Yeah.
and you think, when I was a victim, I would sort of think to myself, I already know everything. They're lucky because they've got that, or this is why I feel this way, or blah, 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 like blame, 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 blame. But then when you flip the switch or flick the switch, whatever the saying is, to growth.
I think it's flip.
All right, thank you. When you flip the switch, then doesn't it feel like, I feel like you have more purpose, because it's like, you know that you can never stop. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
it feels like you just said there that when you're in a victim, it feels like you're at the, did you say you're at the roof or you're at the
ceiling.
level? You didn't say roof. You're at the
I
ceiling.
said ceiling.
Yeah.
Roof.
But when you switch it to roof, when you switch it to growth, there is no ceiling.
Exactly. And you're
that's the difference.
mad aware of, like, I don't know.
Like, it gives me
don't
butterflies. Know. Yeah. And I think that's the most exciting thing. Like, people with a victim mindset think they know it all, even if did I just do that? Yeah. I always do that when I get excited. Ellis always takes the piss out of me, because when I get excited, I'm like,
absolutely nutter.
Where was I?
Victim mindset.
People with a victim mindset actually like believe or actually think that they are like 100% correct, and that's just the way it is. Like that's like a trait of victim mindset. And then when you embody this growth mindset, it's like, we actually don't know a lot. We don't know probably anything, but that's exciting. And you're at, like, when you're okay with that, then it just becomes this whole life journey of like figuring things out. And that to me is the most exciting thing, because if you don't know anything, you don't know what level you're ever going to like be able to reach.
Well, I don't know if you're the same, but I get real, like, huge kicks out of going into situations that I know in the past I would have handled like completely differently. Yeah. Like, and I'm like, I'll come out of that situation. Like, I had a conversation with my dad, I can't even remember when it was now, like a month or so ago, maybe just over. And when I come out of the situation, like, before, I would have been like, rah, 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 rah. Do you know what I mean? Like, I would have lost my head, been proper angry.
Sound like that guy off the
yeah, the Australian,
the dog advert.
Yeah. I would have lost my head, but then I come away from it and I'm like, shit, like, that is how much I have grown. And that doesn't mean to say like, oh, I'm this perfect person now. Like,
and that's your evidence.
There's still like elements of that conversation I had with him that I'm like, oh shit, I wish I didn't do that or whatever. But because of the obsession with growth, and it is an obsession, and it is, I think it's weird, and it takes over your life. Like, nothing will compare to. It's almost like you just look at, like, what is holding me back? What am I doing that's holding me back? How can I change that? And I think that
that's a constant thought, like constant.
Yeah. So is that the fault? Because obviously right now we're both over 100 days sober. What is that fault? The fault that was like,
mental.
Is alcohol holding me back, or what was that for you? Yeah. And why? Why did you feel that?
So yeah, it was basic because I'd done a few months here and there, like last year and the year before, like, because I remember, do you remember when I stopped in April when you were still here and you was like, as if you're stopping drinking in April, like it's the last of the sun. We was in Tees having a beer.
Yeah.
And I was like, because that was the first, I think I was still going through my shit then. And I just stopped drinking for the month. And that's the first time I've ever done it.
Yes.
Just not drank for a month. And the longest I've not drank. And it was because I was like at the peak of my shitness and anxiety. And I thought, oh God, I just can't bear the thought of drinking. Then after that, when I started like the journey, it was a matter of just having a month off here and there because I want to get like, I want to feel some clarity. And then at the start of this year, I was like, fuck it. Like, this is the year I go all in. This is the year, like, I really, because don't get me wrong, I was all in anyway. I always have been. But like, like you have a word for the year. I don't know if you do this. I always have a word for the year.
What's your word?
Expansion,
Right. Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Like in business, in myself and everything. But I thought, right, this is the year that I am
Don't eat too
fully
much.
fucking committed. And don't eat too much. Fuck off. I was like, what? Oh, mong. But and I think I can be even more in. But anyway,
But I don't think you
I
understand the levels that you can go
yeah,
to. Yeah. So like when you first starting out, you're like, oh cool, I'm helping
exactly.
people, blah blah blah. But then you're like, okay, I'm at this level now.
Mm,
And to get to the next level, the details become even smaller and smaller. Yeah. So it's like the micro details. What can I change on this tiny scale that it's like there's like an analogy, like if a plane was to leave New York aiming for London, but you was to change the heading by 5 degrees when they started, the plane would end up in a completely different direction. Yeah. So
yeah.
it's like the micro details now, which is it's
Mm,
nice for me to hear that you're like at that level.
yeah.
Um
It's good. And then whilst I'm at this level, it's like alcohol was 100% not serving me. My hangovers, well, you've seen, like when we've been round to yours on a Sunday, I just don't speak to anyone. When we've gone round to Chaz's on a hangover, when you've seen the photos that Aaron puts in the group chat, I'm just not, I just can't function. And for the next 5 days after I've had a drink, it's like I can tell my brain's not on the level that I want it to be. Like I can physically tell that I'm not
yeah.
thinking the way that I want to think.
And it
So
is it
I
I
was just
think
like, nah.
like it numbs for me, like doing it numbs my creativity
Oh,
massively.
100%.
Yeah.
So
Like I
does
feel like
vaping.
you don't I know it.
Oh, are you still vaping?
Oh yeah, I'm an idiot. But
How are you vaping if you're not drinking? Like that knocks me sick. It
um
was the drinking that was like aiding the vaping for me.
it's just a stupid thing that I do, I think. And I get to like I do like maybe 10 days off and then
Mm.
I'm like, oh, like I've had a good run. Let me just have a cheeky weekend vape, and that turns into back vaping. But
Yeah.
it is things like I think that creativity, like you say, something that I always think is I am my business, and for everyone else that's picking up a salary or a wage, yeah,
Mm.
it don't matter if they go to work hungover because it's not going to
Yeah.
impact them. Whereas for me, yeah, I want to be shit hot. I don't want to miss any opportunities to help new people change their lives. And I don't want to turn
Exactly.
up and under deliver on the standards that I have in my business. So for me, taking drinking away, it doesn't make me feel like I'm a confident person anyway. Like it doesn't, maybe
Mm.
my dancing ain't as good when I've not had a drink, like, but do you know what I mean?
I'd
I
say
think,
I'd say I'm actually less confident when I've had a drink now because I like revert into old patterns and like just a reversion of me that I don't particularly like. So I'm actually less confident when I've had a drink these
really,
days. Yeah, because like I'll feel I'll be triggered more.
mm,
Do you know what I mean? I'm definitely a crier when I'm drunk.
be
And I
more
just
irrational.
yeah, 100%.
Mm.
And like that's not who I am. So I'm definitely like less confident when I've had a drink.
So for you with drinking, are you saying, right, that's you, Romeo done, or
I think so.
for good?
I'll never say never because I don't want to be like I can't. Well, I mean, it doesn't bother me anymore. But if I have a drink, when people come out of the woodwork and they're like, like,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? Like the closest has been obviously now. Aaron asked me and I was like, oh, I don't know, I might do. When we first got the news about the visa, I was like, do I have a drink? And then when I like took a second, I was like, celebration doesn't equal drink for me anymore. That's like, I can still celebrate the fork out of things in life and not drink. Like, and I don't say this as a people shouldn't drink. I think it's amazing. Like, I love watching people like have fun, having a drink and all that stuff. Like, it doesn't bother me, and people need to do what they want to do. But for me, like you say, like, we're a personal brand. Like, my business is me, and it just does not suit my lifestyle and what I want anymore. So when people say, "Oh, you're not celebrating," yes, I am. But just, I don't need alcohol to do that anymore, me personally. So,
which I think is, I think as well, like with drinking culture, it adds to like your level of discipline. If you can go out and you can be like, oh, all your mates are drinking, but you're like, no, I'm not going to drink, then it makes it easier to say no to things that aren't going to push you in the direction that you want to go in. And like you say, it's a personal and individual, I think, discipline choice.
Yeah. And I think the discipline thing's a huge thing for me. Like, because that's been like, I've actually done this for nearly 4 months now. Well, yeah, 4 months. And
how have you just had to count up to 4? It's 8.
Because I know, but I was just like, is it 4 or 5? Because we're nearly in May, so May hasn't been and done yet. So, but yeah,
thanks for letting me know.
And yeah, it's that knowing that I've been able to say no to something that just does not serve me for that amount of time because I've been disciplined.
And obviously, I done 6 months off drinking before, and after I went back to drinking, I was like, right, I'm going to do 6 months. And when I went back to drinking, the next weekend I was like, oh, I might not drink, and then I was like, nah, fuck it, might as well. And then I just went back to drinking, and I don't know if you've had it this time, but it was about after 5 or 6 weeks, it was honestly like my brain just the first time I did it, my brain was like, it actually felt like I had a brain in my head. Do you know what I mean? I always say that, like, because before I was obviously operating, but it was just like, why do I feel so alert, so much energy, so much more creative?
Yeah, that's why I'm scared of, like, not scared, but that's why I'm so determined now that I think that's it for me, because if I start again, I'll get, because I was in like, I get really like, what's the word? I'll get into a pattern of drinking again.
Yeah, 100%. Like,
I know, not an addiction, but I'll be like, oh yeah, my go-to was, if I'm stressed, it was, I'll have a drink, and if I get back into that pattern again, it's going to be harder to get back out. So
why do you think
I'd rather just not.
Why do you think it'd be harder?
Because we're creatures of habit, aren't we? Once you create a habit, I've got this habit now of not drinking, of saying no. Whereas if I get back into drinking, it's gonna end up becoming a habit again.
So what do you do now if you get stressed? What have you replaced drinking with?
Doing something that lights me up. So if I feel stressed, or doing something that's going to actually help my mind, like journaling, meditation, which I was doing anyway before I stopped drinking. But with the drinking, it'd be like, you know, I'll have a drink if I'm stressed. But now it's like, right, well, I'm going to do the shit I know works, that I've used for the past 2 years. Or I'll like get outdoors, I'll just do something that like makes me feel good, rather than doing something that I know makes me feel shit. Like, I'm stressed and I'm gonna go and do something that makes me feel even shitter. Makes no sense to me personally.
I think you can say everyone knows, isn't it? Like, because you have got to caveat it by saying, oh, not everyone has to do it, but ultimately you can only go off your experience. Let's move on from the drinking. Before we jumped on, I asked you the 3 biggest wins in your life, and it is something that I love to, or well, you're the first guest in this series of the podcast, but it's something that I'm really interested in, because I think that success can mean so many different things to so many people, right? And it, not that I'm fucking in your head, but asking for three different things is going to tell me a lot about like what drives you, what like
I perceive success to
deep.
be. Yeah.
Exactly that. So I want to touch on them. You've gone with the first one, which I'm not going to lie, I thought would definitely be in there, and probably would assume that that would be number one, because I would say for me that's being happy with who I am is probably my number one. But you said going from absolutely hating myself to loving and accepting all of me. Why is that the biggest
Yeah.
achievement in your life?
That is the biggest achievement because it's had an absolute domino effect on everything else. So the other two things that I've put in there, like they wouldn't mean anything if the first thing hadn't been achieved. My
100%.
relationships, my relationship with myself, my relationship with other people, like my whole life wouldn't be as it is now if that hadn't been achieved.
Yeah.
So that will always be number one, because I will never, like, I look back on the girl who was going through that at the worst, and I'm just so grateful for her, for actually, like, even though it was the worst one of the worst times in my life, it was one of the most pivotal, needed, and the one of the most times in my life where I was most grateful for. Because without me going through that, we wouldn't be sat here right now.
Yeah.
So I believe that that is one of the best things that ever happened to me going through that anxiety.
It's mad you say that, because I say that about my battle with mental health, but also for me, if I look back of everything that I've done since I've battled with my mental health, yeah, the person or the version of me that I'm most proud of, even though like I can't believe what I've done since, it's the person that
Mm,
had to make the decision to change. Yeah. Because
yeah,
that's the hardest, that was the
100%.
hardest part. Because once you commit to change, then it becomes easier. Yeah. You're like, okay, this is going to be hard, but it's going to be worth it. Yeah. Whereas that person was like,
Yeah.
I am a victim, and actually, no, I'm going to choose to work on myself. Like, I think what 20, I was 25 or 26. That was a long time ago now, but that person is just,
Oh.
yeah, I know. But I 100% get where you're coming from. And with that, and I know you could say a lot about this, but how? What's the main thing that you've has allowed you to love and accept yourself? If you could put it down to like, what's the first thing that comes to your head?
Oh my God. Oh, that's such a hard question
That
and a
means it's
very
a
good
good question.
question. Yeah. Um, I'd say the number one thing that's allowed me to love and accept myself is stop looking externally for answers, validation, anything, and starting to look internally at my experiences, at my behaviors, and why I was like I was and why I am like I am now. So yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, that I stopped looking for answers externally and meaning and all of that shit,
Mm.
and then turned it inwards. That's the main thing, I think.
Happiness is an inside job, as they say, isn't it?
Mm, exactly. Yeah. And I think that realization definitely was the most kind of, what's the word? Was the biggest thing that
Yeah.
allowed me to love and accept myself. Because if you're looking it for it elsewhere, you're never gonna find it. And it's always gonna be dependent on something that's out of your control. Like that love and that acceptance that you're feeling, it's always gonna be in the power of something else. Whereas if you actually look inwards and you look at your own inner world and what you're thinking and where them thoughts come from and all of that, then you have that power.
100%. Like I feel like I'll be honest, I'm a bit of a control freak. You know what I mean? Not with other
Mm,
people, but I am obsessed with like anything that I can control in my life or govern or dictate, then I want control over that. And I think if you're saying, oh well, I'm this way because of X, Y, and Z, or you should make me happy.
Mm,
Like even in my relationship now, like I'm
yeah.
like, nah, I'm turning up as me, you're turning up as you. Yeah. And then let's hope that there's happiness in there. Or not hope that there is a lot
Yeah.
of
And
happiness. But do you know what I
nine
mean?
times
Like,
out of 10, yeah. But when you are doing that, rather than hoping that other person's going to make you happy, when you're showing up as you and making sure you're happy and they're showing up as them, making sure that they're happy, that's where you find happiness together
yeah,
because you're not looking for it in the other person.
which I think a lot of relationships definitely are doomed in that sense. But
Oh,
let's,
mm,
number
mm.
two, yeah, building my
Yeah.
own business that
What was it?
changes
Can't remember.
women's lives
Oh, yeah.
around the world, which I
Yeah.
am unbelievably proud of you. And there's been a couple of times along your journey where maybe I've given you a little poke or a nudge to be like, go on,
Yeah,
fucking get out of
definitely.
here. But what I love is that those nudges, as the years of or the 18 months has gone past, they're few and far between, because I know that you have that in your own head now. Yeah. Like you're building
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
fuck it, I'm gonna go. Yeah. Like, why can't I? Why can't I?
Mm.
What is it that sets your world alight the most about taking people, because I guess it is taking women through the transformation that you've been through?
Yeah,
Why
that's
does that?
exactly what it is.
Yeah. So why is that this number two? Like what do you get? What is it that you get?
Because
Because there's going to be a selfish trait or a selfish
yeah,
need within you. Why? Why does that? Why is that the second biggest thing you've ever achieved in your life?
I think it's the second because after me working on myself, then my next priority is making sure that no other women feels that way. Like the thought of another woman looking in the mirror and just feeling that anxiety, not seeing herself for who she is, like it makes me want to cry.
Mm.
Like I can't deal with it. So it's probably the selfish part is like I can't deal with that thought, so I'm going to make sure as many women as possible don't experience it because I don't want to feel sad. That's the selfish
No.
part, but that's not the main reason. But I'd say that's the selfish part from it. Like my main driver is that I can't bear the thought of that being anyone else. And actually seeing the end, and it's not the end result because they go off and they
Yeah,
continue the
yeah,
journey,
yeah.
but seeing the difference and seeing the end point at the end of when we're working together is just, it never gets boring. It's magical every single time. Everyone's different. There's different transformations, and it just, oh my God, it gives me the biggest nipple-ons ever. Like it's fucking
The biggest nip-ons ever. Fucking hell. No, but I do.
does.
I'm not gonna go to that extent. But for me, I do 100%. No, I do 100% get what you're saying, because there's things where I think often you can see how much people want to change, because there's walkers and talkers, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
sometimes you'll get people that are like, "Oh, poor me, like I need to make a change and whatever." But the reality is like, no, you're just looking to be fixed. Yeah, you're not actually looking to
Yeah.
make a change. You're looking for
Looking to
someone to
do the
fix
work.
you,
Yeah.
which is never going to
And
happen.
I
And
can't, no one
then,
can do that. Yeah.
no way, no way. Like, it's impossible unless you want to help yourself. Yeah, it's like a saying that I love that helped me through my mental health or whatever, was like, no one's coming to save you. And that is like, you have to,
Mm.
people can help you along that journey, but you have to be up for saving yourself, because if you don't,
You have to
then you're always
choose
going to
it.
be fucked. So I
Yeah.
complete, and
100%.
what I
And
think is,
I'm like, go on.
no, you go, you're the guest, spit bars.
Okay. So I'm like torn between this like thought at the moment where it's like you have to. I can't deal with people saying that they want to change and then not doing anything about it. Like, I
Yeah,
don't want to hear it, kind of thing. So this
100%.
this isn't the truth. This is just what I'm split between. So like when people are going on and on, I want to change, but they're not doing anything different, and they're the same. I'm like, oh, like I can't listen to you say that you want to change anymore. If you're gonna do it, and then I'm there for you if you want to do it, right? Harsh, but it's
I don't
like
think
I
that's
can't
harsh.
listen. I just physically can't
For
bear
me, that
to
fucks me
listen
off
to
so
it. But
much.
but then the other side of me is like, I get it. Like, I understand that you want to change and that it's scary and that it's comfortable and that your mind's telling you can't do it. So it's, but then again, it's just like, if you really wanted to change, you'll change. But
I, I,
I'm just
I
like,
think,
I balance between the two.
nah. I'm like, if you're people are full of shit, yeah. Like this is what I genuinely believe. There's so many people that are full of shit. They think that they want to change, but if I take myself back to when I made the change, yeah, it was almost as if I like just
Mm,
threw the gauntlet down. I was like, no, this is not continuing now. I
yeah,
don't
same,
have any excuses. I
same.
don't care how much it costs. I don't care how long it takes. Because that's, I think, as well, is like a massive one for people, like time. Like, it's going to take too
Yeah,
long. But you're going to stay in that shit feeling if you don't make a
for that
change.
however
And for
long. Yeah,
exactly. So I genuinely think that anyone that wants to change will change, but anyone else that talks about it, they fuck me off because it's like if you wanted it bad enough, you would, and if you're just talking
yeah,
about it, you're not at your lowest point yet. You have not hit rock bottom, which unfortunately means that you need to
yeah.
keep going through shit.
Is And I think it's sad because what I do as well, like it's not only for people who've hit rock bottom. Like you say, there's what I do, it's like we remove that ceiling. So you can always up level, you can always grow, but people wait until they hit rock bottom.
Yeah,
And you know what? That's just the way it is. I did,
I
and it's
did.
a shame that that happens. Yeah, but that's what happens most of the time. But that's just reminded me when you said that. And it's like when and I know this is part of like people's journeys, but it's like, do you ever get them clients that pop in your inbox and say, "Oh, I really want to work with you," or like they'll do something to get a little hit of dopamine, and then they
Hmm.
feel like they've done something to move towards their
Yeah,
change when really they haven't. They've just popped you a message
yeah.
saying, "I really want to work with you," and then that like that feeds that little bit of, "All right,
But
I'm gonna
with
do something," and then
I'll get that, and I'll honestly like if it's someone that I know of in terms of they've done it a few times, yeah,
yeah,
I'll be like, I've sussed you out already. You might think I'm an idiot, yeah. I've sussed you out, and then if they hit me like with two DMs over a period of time, then I'll tell them right, this is my coaching program. This is the price. Are you in? Like I'm very short, very direct because I think I ain't fucking wasting my time. And what you want
yeah,
me to be like, oh, well, I'm going to help you do this and you're going to get to here and blah,
mm.
blah, 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 blah. Let me make you feel better. I'm like, no, fuck it. Like, if you actually want to change, let's fucking go because the evidence is for everyone to see I'm fucking sick at
Yeah.
my job. So jump in or fuck off. That's my that is like that's what I think because I think I ain't like it's not easy for anyone, but
Yeah.
fucking making a change, let's be honest, is a lot easier than waking up and feeling anxious every day, hating what you see in
Yeah.
the mirror every day. But some people are like, oh no, I sod it. I'll just hope that tomorrow I'll wake up and it will all
Mm.
change. No, it won't. You
And
need
I
to
think
change.
people just get comfortable in that. So like deep down, it's like that is the easiest thing to do. Just wake up and feel anxious, even though they know that it's horrible and that they're suffering and that well, suffer just use the word suffering, but that
Yeah.
they're in their
But they
mind they're
are suffering
suffering.
because they're
Yeah.
victims. They're the
Yeah,
victim mentality,
exactly.
yeah?
But that's easier for them
Yeah, of
because they
course,
know
because it's
that
what
because
they
it's
know.
so comfortable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And they're like, oh right, well this is how life is. And that unfortunately, like I even remember it when I was like victim mentality, I'd like be like when I first started out, I was like listening to The Secret or whatever, and I was like, this is a load of bollocks, mate. Like,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? I'm like, what? I'm gonna think something and it's gonna come to fruition. Like, stop chatting shit. And I remember like I would watch like YouTube videos on law of attraction where like
YouTube.
YouTube, like celebs would be like, yeah, law of attraction, law of attraction. And in my head, I'm thinking it's easy for you to say because you fucking done it.
Because
But
yeah.
there's going to be a shit ton of people out there that have used the law of attraction and are fucking nowhere to be seen. Yeah.
Mm.
But then I realized that was me thinking, yes, like I say, it's easy for you to say. Like, no, like if you fucking, I genuinely believe if you want anything in life, it's all like it's yours. You just got to fucking
100%.
it's up to you to decide how hard you're willing to work for it.
And how long are you willing to wait? Because even if like, it's like you say, like you don't just think something, do the work, and then expect it to pop up straight away. Like the PRs taught me that 100%. Like, and other things as well. Just you can't expect to like manifest everything into your life straight away. You just got to trust that it's fucking coming. And then when you know that it's coming, it comes a lot quicker, but without you being absolutely attached to it.
See, I think there's like evidence. I think again that's an evidence-based thing because anything that I've truly wanted in my life, I've got. It's just I don't know at what time I'm going to get that. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah.
so
Same.
therefore, when I think that way, it's like, all right, cool. Am I working towards something? Yes. Okay. When it comes, it comes. Am I enjoying the process? Yes. When it comes, it comes.
And I think, like, you know, like we just said then about I'm just so proud of the person who started it, who was in the like the poor mind space, because they had like we had zero evidence then.
Yeah.
Like no evidence at all. But we like, so when you're first starting, you won't have any evidence that this is gonna happen for you, that you'll be able to shift your mindset. And then that's why you'll be so proud of yourself, because you made moves when you didn't have any evidence at all.
Literally. And that's like, but like it, like I read loads of self-development books or whatever, and they're always like the hardest thing to do is to start, because then it becomes a lot easier. That one decision to say, nah, I'm gonna change my identity and I'm not gonna be
and
this
mean
little
it. Yeah.
bitch anymore. And like, and I do mean that, like I do think it is a bitch mentality, because
100%.
I think that people with the victim mentality, they're like, look at people that are in a good mindset or a good headspace and they're like, oh well, you're just a happy person. It's like, no, every
No, I
day the
work for
voice in
this.
my head tells me stay in bed. Every day it says skip gym. Every day it does, do you know what I mean? All these little things. But I know who I am and I know that I'll overcome it. And the reality is you're a little bitch and giving into your inner bitch. That's the facts.
That is what it is. Because you still get those thoughts. You still get the like that's what I said. Like you're not perfect, but it's you do the work every day to be not a little bitch, basically.
Make the inner bitch your bitch, innit? The final one is leaving your hometown and ending up with PR, which was yesterday for you, but today for me. That I seen that. So congrats. Why is that one of your biggest achievements? Getting PR.
Can you repeat?
What is it?
Oh, why is it?
What does it? Yeah, what does it mean to you?
Absolutely everything. Like, talk about like, I truly believe that I manifested this, because on my first day in Australia, it was like, this is home. And I didn't know how it was going to happen, but I just knew that I would end up here and this would be my home. And I know a lot of people feel that way, and obviously you felt that way at one point. But and this is a mad story, right? As soon as I truly released the attachment that I had to get in PR, and I mean as soon, I released it properly last week, and I'm not even bullshitting yet. I'd say previously, or I'm not asked whether it comes through. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I knew deep down I had this like, not anxiety, but attachment, like fear that it wasn't going to come through. And then last week I was just like, because I really like started letting it get to me, along with like my business. There's a couple of things going on in my business. I was really attached to that, like the outcome of things in my business. And last week I was kind of sick of my own bullshit. And was like, fuck this. Like, I'm truly going to release all these attachments that I have. And I'm just going to concentrate on what I've already got. And then I had this realization that I'm literally living my actual dream that the old me wanted. Like, I've got freedom, I'm helping the girls. And that kind of just hit me. And I'm like, oh my God, why am I so like attached and fearful that I'm not going to get what I want? And as soon as I had that realization, on Monday, I signed the highest paying client that I've ever had, and the PR come through. Like, mental. And I honestly, truly believe that I manifested this PR because I knew I wanted it. And there was never a doubt in my mind that I wasn't going to get it. But I feel like the attachment to it made it a longer
process
process than it needed to be, because the PR has been in for 14 months, which is long. But yeah, it just means the absolute world to me. Like, and I don't know, I'm going to be honest here, I don't know if it's because part of me was fearful for going home for so long, similar to you, because I've got a lot of things back home. But then I had this other realization that when I went back in August, I was a lot different, and I was able to handle situations a lot different. And I noticed my growth in different situations at home. So again, that realization was like, just like, well, if I don't get the PR, then I probably wouldn't move back to the UK anyway, but I'd be okay going back there for a bit. Yeah. And yeah, I'm just so grateful that this is my home. I think it means everything.
I think it is mad because obviously what people see is like the amazing side of Australia, like beaches, sun, whatever, but no one sees the visa issues.
Stress,
it's like,
and it is heartbreaking.
Inability to like move through. It's an inability to move forward in your life, I think. Yeah, because
it's over your shoulder, isn't it?
Yeah, like, because when I was like out looking to come back in, I was thinking, all right, I can go on. I'm 31. Well, I was 30 at the time. I can go on this visa. That'll give me 2 years. And then I can go on to the next visa. That'll give me 2 years. So at 34, I'll have PR. And then I was thinking to myself, 34 years old, like, I want to probably have a kid by then. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you want to be settled. Gonna hold up.
Yeah. So I don't think people understand, like, people might see your story and be like, oh, woo, like, she's got PR, but it's actually like but it is actually the biggest thing. Like, it is massive.
Yeah, it's huge out here.
It gives you like freedom now, like you say.
It's not the visa, it's the it's the freedom. It's the not having it hanging over your head anymore. Like, it's done. I don't have to think about it. Like, I've not even like said this out loud. And it's the same with Aaron, bless him. 9 years. More than 9 years. Nearly 10 years. Like, that shows how fucking stressful it can be. Nearly 10 years of having this hanging over his head, and now he can say the words and never have to worry about a visa again. Like, that is mental. And like, it is though, like, not even the visa situation. Like, I don't know about you, but especially through COVID, I had this like wave of missing home, which I never normally get. Like, but through COVID, I think it was when I seen everyone starting to like, when the borders were opening, I think Australia was one of the last, and you just seeing people reuniting. I think it was when New Zealand did as well, because they was before us. Like, I just really started to miss home. It's not a holiday. Like, you fucking, like, you come in and you work, like, and my cousin lands today, right? I think he's only 20. He's quite young. He's 20, 21. And he's the last person I ever expected to come out here. He's like, he's a proper like lad. Yeah. And he's just fucked off because there's nothing there for him back home. And he's come out, and I had to say to him, you're going to have the best 2 years of your life. Like, if you decide to stay, you decide to stay. But please know that it's not always like a holiday.
It is like just living life in a different country, isn't it? That's what I think. Yeah. Like, and obviously with social media, people only see like
exactly
the good times, or
so I had to say to him, I was like, please, it is a holiday in your 2 years, your first 2 years, a little bit, because you are traveling, and it depends what you do, but I've just told him to make sure he travels as much as possible. But it's like, it's hard. It can get hard. Like, even I remember in the first 2 years, I was always like worrying about money. Like, honestly, there was times where I had like $5 to my name. Like, you remember in Cairns, And I was like, how the fuck am I? And I've just found a job just in time. But yeah, it's stress sometimes, but it's worth it to get to
Yeah,
this point.
no doubt about it. And I think, especially, well, you and Mac are like, 9 years is a long time, isn't it? But now, like you
Yeah.
say, it's like done now. Next year,
Mm.
citizenship, and
Yeah.
then
We won't get it next year though,
right,
because we're going traveling. So you have to be in the country. And if you're out
right,
of the country longer than 3 months, so we'll probably be gone for 6 to 9.
wait,
If you're out of the country longer than that, you have to you have to it starts again, it resets. So when we get back from
right,
traveling, it'll be a year from then.
fair play.
I have a
Um,
passport.
yeah. Last thing
Mad.
I want to
Go on.
finish on. What's next for
Oh my
you?
goodness.
Come on then.
Um, what's next? So what's next is just what's next for me is expansion, is growth. I want what's next is travel, be full-time while coaching, but whilst I'm traveling, build something that I can come back here to and not have to have a part-time job, right? I love my new part-time job. Back in hospo, which I haven't done for years, and I forgot how much I fucking love it because
Who?
I was not hospo.
Hospitality.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Hospo.
Someone's got their
And I love
PR.
it. Shut up. I love it. Like, because I'm not a person to sit at a computer screen all day. And I've got my days back. So I'm doing that part time. But yeah, like the thing is next is just building it to a point where I can be like fully in my coaching. And I'm going to do that by just bringing out loads of fucking good shit that I can scale. So not just one-on-one, just finished a group program. There'll be a membership shortly called, how do I say what it's called?
Yeah, fucking too
Yeah,
right.
I'm
This is an
gonna,
exclusive. Blah, blah, blah.
so it's the Sober Hun Society.
Oh
I don't
shit,
know
yeah.
exactly what it's gonna look like. But yeah, membership vibes. What else? I've got the retreat coming, first
You
ever
fucking well
retreat.
have, haven't you?
Yeah, that's going to be an annual thing, and I want that to grow. So eventually, that's going to be international vibes, like not in Australia. Um, Maybe next year that will be the case. No, not maybe. It's going to be at least not in Sydney next year. It might be somewhere
Yeah.
else.
Don't be giving me fucking maybes and I
Yeah,
thinks, yeah? Let's have a bit of
yeah,
certainty to finish the pod.
yeah. So next year we've got international retreats and just like growth in all areas in my business, but also for me personally just like really, I think a big thing for me is to really focus on what I've got now rather than, and I've realized this in the last couple of weeks. What?
That's like that's something that I struggle with so much, yeah.
Yeah, because I know where
Because
I want to be, so it's easier
exactly
for my mind
when
to,
the vision's so clear, you're like, I want that
yeah,
now. But
I want that now.
also I want that now. But
But yeah,
you made a
so it's
point
just grounding
earlier.
myself.
You made a point earlier about right now you live the life that you once dreamed of, which
Exactly.
I think is very well, it is the same for me. Like I remember when I was like in school, I was like, I want to basically live like an athlete. And like at the
Mm.
minute, I train once a day, maybe play a bit of tennis, do work in between. Like the life I have is just mental. But would I say I 100% am enjoying the life that I have? I'd say it's like 95% or not. No, not
Same.
even that high. Not even that high. Because I just know, again, I'm addicted to growth. I want that growth from every aspect of my life. So it's like, come on then, let's go, let's
Yeah.
go. Yeah. But
And you know what? You know why I was so cloudy over the last couple of weeks? It's because, like, before I had all these realizations, like, over the last week, I was following like coaches online that were like, and they were amazing, amazing women, but they're all like, they talk a lot about money. They've like post about their flashy cars, designer handbags. Like, there's like a group of coaches that are on this level and they're incredible, but they're business coaches. So they're all like money, money, money.
mm,
And without realizing it, I was like consuming a lot of their content. And it was putting me in this place of like, I need to be there. And then when I had that realization about being happy with what I've got now, I realized that I don't even want that. I know it's coming and I'll be buzzing when I have it. But like right now, like I'm not like, those things don't
You
drive
can't
me.
compare your
Like,
day one to someone
yeah,
else's day, whatever it
exactly.
is. Do you know what I mean? And
Exactly.
I think that, as I said earlier, like when you have evidence that anything that you've truly wanted, you always get, why would it,
Yeah,
why won't it happen? Yeah. So it's
that's
just
what I
like,
mean.
just let it happen in the background and then
And it's going to
just
happen
enjoy
quicker
it.
if you're happy with where you're at now. 100%. Because if you're always fearful that you're not going to get it and you're always like getting in a state that you're not there yet, then you're not going to be open to the things that are going to push you forward towards getting it. You're just going to be like stuck in this little why ain't I got it yet bubble.
Yeah.
Do
I
you know what I
wouldn't say
mean?
I'm there. I wouldn't say I'm there. I think I'm more like
I was over the last couple of weeks,
yeah,
100%.
I'd say
I
I'm
was
more
just
just,
it was I was just finding it really hard to shift, and it was because I think it was because I was consuming that. I wasn't giving myself the space. And then, like I said, as soon as I fucking was sick of my own bullshit, and then I had a few realizations, all the good started coming in.
well, cool. It's honestly been a fucking pleasure. Sorry about a couple of technical difficulties, but
That's okay.
genuine. Again, I'm going to be quite nice to you. You are such an incredible human, and what you do for others, I mean, it just speaks for itself, really. Like you deserve every success, and watching you grow from afar at the moment, but I'm sure once I'm allowed back into Oz, or you travel around the world and let me know your itinerary, and then me and Mac can have a
Oh
great
my God,
time.
yeah, you'll have to come to Europe next year.
What do you mean? I'm in Europe, but I
Well,
think
no,
I'm going
you're
to be
not,
going.
actually.
I'm in. I am in Europe. I'm not in the EU. You absolute donut.
Oh.
But we'll finish it there. No, honestly, love you to bits, and keep doing what you're doing, because you are changing lives, and I don't think that there's anything more powerful in this life than that. So
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thanks for having me.
No dramas. Thanks to everyone that's listening. Hope you enjoyed this new style of podcast, and there's going to be plenty more coming. So I'll catch you in the next one.